Hey everyone, this is Bulba Trainer. I am blown away with how many people enjoyed the last list video I did. I really appreciate all my subscribers for their support, and the people who have been encouraging me to keep pressing on making content that I want, in spite of my worries about how it will turn out. That video was actually the first in a series I want to do called Applied Pokology, where I pick Pokemon that I think are best suited to particular jobs, regions, or historical figures, and in 2 weeks, if everything goes to plan, I will have another one for you. This week though, I want to focus on an elemental list. I haven't made one for a while, and tearing up Pokemon of a particular type is something I'm always down to do. This week, I thought we'd get a bit spooky with the Ghost type. Ghost may be my second favorite type, and from the gen when we only had one family to the present day with 54 individuals, I usually fall in love with whatever new Ghost types they give us. Because Ghost is the second least common after Ice, that means that there should be less disagreement about my choices, but as always, if you do disagree, politely list yours in the comments below. I'll be happy to see them and compare. Tell me why too. Share the reasons that you love the Pokemon you do, and I or others might gain some new appreciation. Because Ghost is the second least used type, however, it also means that I'll be displaying a fair percentage of the Ghost families. When I do, I'll lead into it with the favorite of that family. For example, Haunter and family is number 10 because I love the family, but Haunter is my favorite. No legendary Pokemon as usual, and in this video I'm going to try and really push the merit of design, lore, or general awesomeness that attracts me to the Pokemon, rather than talk about stats or abilities. As time has gone on in the Pokemon world, I find myself gaining appreciation for a lot of Pokemon that I wouldn't use in battle, and conversely, I find that a lot of battles outside of regular gameplay have limited the spread of Pokemon someone might use. With that said, if you like this content and want to see more, make sure you leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out when I post more, especially my theories. And let's dive into my picks for my favorite Ghost-type Pokemon. Number 10, Haunter and family. There was a time, long ago, when we only had one Ghost-type family. Just one. Kids today are running around with their haunted sandcastles and B2 bombers, but the OG Ghost Pokemon that laid the groundwork was this family here, and Haunter has always been my favorite of the three. Except for the fan theory that Gengar is the shadow of Clefable, there's nothing really about these three that references anything else. You can tell that they're ghosts, but they're not a haunted teapot, they're not obviously the departed spirit of a person, they just are ghosts. And I really like that simplicity. Because Haunter needs to be traded to evolve, and because in real life and in game, seriously, we hate you, Mindy, trading isn't always possible, Haunter has grown to be my favorite. It's the height of what a solitary gamer can achieve with the line, but it's not terrible except in Generation 1, where a possible coding error didn't make them super effective against psychic types like we had been promised. But we still got those episodes with Ash's Haunter from the same generation, so it balanced out, I guess? Add to that Gengar has both a Gigantamax and a Mega Evolution, meaning that it hasn't lost its appeal or importance as time has gone on, and still has a place in the parties of the current generation. If I had one flaw about the family, it would be the small change in their shiny forms, which I felt could have been better, especially since Mega Gengar got that white ghost thing going for it. But we have what we have, and at least they didn't make it worse. In any case, the design, the unique typing, and the vintage status of this family made sure it had a place on this list. Number 9, Cursula. From the oldest ghost family to one of the newest, I love Cursula for numerous reasons, and here they are. The design is creepy. It's not scary, and if I saw one sitting in my aquarium staring at me, I probably wouldn't have nightmares, but I would be unsettled. Galarian Corsola basically split open for this thing to escape, and its pure ghost typing mean that it's passed on, no longer holding on to the watery life of its Johtoan counterpart. It's sad, it's tragic, and it's real. That would be the second reason I like this Pokemon. It speaks to a very real consequence of global climate change. Anytime you see this Pokemon, you should be reminded that our real-world coral are going through something very similar. It's a way for Pokemon to speak to real-world issues in a way that's engaging for a younger audience. It's not a lecture full of terms and ideas that some people may reject or not understand. There's a pink happy coral Pokemon in Johto, and in this region, it's bleached, sad, and a ghost. Finally, Corsola was kind of a loner for the longest time. I don't think its original design was necessarily bad, and I know it had fans, but this pink buddy was relatively niche before Generation 9 gave it a new coat of paint. I love seeing forgotten Pokemon revitalized in this way as much as I love seeing new ones. It cultivates new fans of the family and refreshes existing ones. Number 8. Palisand and Sandygast. I didn't grow up on a beach. I live in a landlocked state. That wouldn't mean that these two wouldn't be found here. New Mexico has sandboxes. But since these two were originally discovered in Alola on the shores of the ocean, that's what I associate with them. And maybe that's part of the reason I was drawn to them initially. A haunted sandcastle on a beach. I could see the creepypasta being good. But it's more than that. It's these innocent little sandcastles holding a dark secret. I don't normally think of mass graves when I think of sandcastles, but if their Pokédex entries are to be believed, that's what hides underneath this Pokemon. Like, the entry actually says masses of dried bones. That's just dark. Like the shiny form of this Pokemon, which is also a really neat shout out to beaches where black sand is a real thing. And one of the official artworks of this Pokemon showed actually devouring a Pikachu. Knowing what we know about this Pokemon, this may be the most morbid official image for the franchise. And I love it for that. I wouldn't have made a sandcastle ghost ground type, I would have made it water ground. But this Pokemon turned something so innocuous into one of the most terrifying things to experience on a beach in that world, and I really like that challenge to my expectations. Also, if the anime is right, they can change their size at will, and I'm guessing small Pokemon aren't the only ones who have to fear the sculpture. Number 7. Honedge and Family. If you watched my video on Warrior Pokemon, you'll already know that I like Aegislash. But if I'm picking from my favorites, the first of the line actually wins for me. There's something about a possessed sword that fits so well in a fantasy setting, and I like the simplicity of the first. Honedge is one of those Pokemon that represents the pinnacle of design in my opinion for Pokemon and inanimate objects. It's very obvious what it is. It's very obvious that there's something about it that's unique from the object in our world, and it blends together in a way that balances the life form and the sword. As I stated in the list video, I'd be happy to charge into battle holding one of these, but I'm also just happy to have one on my team in general. The design has a bit of antique flair to it, with the tassel hanging off the end bringing to mind Jian, or even some US Marine Corps swords which feature decorative knots. The idea of it wrapping around the person's arms and draining their life force is relatively new to the concept, but it's a welcome bit of lore. Honedge being the soul of the person the sword killed is also a bit of dark history to it, and we've come to expect that from the ghost type, but is part of why I love them so much. The ghost and dark types seem more mature to me, or maybe that's because I had a sheltered childhood. However, this tidbit also bridges the gap between Pokemon and humans a little more, which fertilizes the fields of theory, hopefully bearing fruit that I can bring to you in future videos. Number 6. Litwick and Family. Candlemod says what? In all seriousness, I can't help but see the possible inspiration for Litwick in this Digimon, but I also don't care. The way the candle becomes a lantern, becomes a chandelier, works marvelously for this Pokemon, and I don't know that I'd have been able to come up with anything better. Except maybe an oil lamp. Give me an oil lamp, Pokemon. Getting back on topic, this is another one of the ghost types that is deceptively cute. I don't think too many people would be opposed to this Pokemon hanging out in their rooms, giving them a little light, except, the light is formed from your soul, and it will then lead you into the spirit world. Maybe light bulbs are safer. I think the design and even the flame color work out for this Pokemon though. The idea of a light that leads people to its doom isn't usually a candle, but is present in several world mythologies, and the evolution kind of mirrors our own evolution in regards to lighting technology. I guess in that way it's kind of a historic Pokemon, and I can always respect that. Number 5, Sableye. I love Sableye. First off, it's cute. This little companion might scare the people of the Pokemon world, and if I caught its eyes glowing in a cave, I might worry for a moment, but once shining a light on it, I'd probably let it come home with me. Sableye is also one of the ghost Pokemon who doesn't have a gruesome or dark story behind it. It is feared, but only due to misunderstanding. It's not tricking people into caves to feast on their souls or bones or anything, it just wants to eat gems. Sableye also has a Mega Evolution, which is pretty neat in my opinion, hiding behind its giant gem like a shield. Having its origins in a supposed alien also adds a bit of fun real-world lore to this creature. Without a doubt, the thing I love most about Sableye is the way it moves in a lot of its animated sprites. Either jerky and stuttered, or else looking playful. Again, I think it was supposed to be creepy, but I find it cute. I've seen people say that it creeps them out, but really, I love it. Maybe because that's how I look when I dance. Number 4, Mimikyu. Deja vu, anyone? I've already mentioned Mimikyu in another list, but that's because Mimikyu is awesome. I love Pikachu, but I love its ghost copy a bit more. The lore of this Pokemon is a large reason why. That it's really just lonely and looking for friends upends some of the lore that ghost Pokemon have built around themselves, and generates a ton of sympathy and relatability for me. This Pokemon is supposedly ugly but covers itself in a homemade costume to look like Pikachu in an attempt to garner sympathy, and based on its popularity, I'd say it works very well. I mean, the poor thing cries as it tries to repair its costume at night because it doesn't want people to know what it really looks like, and if that's not the most heart-wrenching thing that this franchise has given us, I don't know what is. The anime version kind of strayed from this cute persona for a more hatred and slightly genocidal based motive, but we can overlook that. I think for a lot of people, Alola was made extra special by this Pokemon, and even though Game Freak tried to make it creepy, I've never been more happy to see them fail. Number 3, Phantump. Back to the creepy. Have you ever gotten lost in the woods? Have you ever seen the Skull Kids from the Legend of Zelda series? Do you remember those cute little creatures from Princess Mononoke? Well, if you answered yes to any of these questions, this Pokemon would like to meet you, as it's related to all 3. Indirectly, in the Legend of Zelda case, I just like to drop references. See, in the Pokemon world, if you get lost in the forest as a kid and pass away, you might turn into one of these, which, sad, but also means one day you might become a Trevenant. But the lore of this Pokemon, while yet another morbid example of ghost Pokemon delving into the darker side of the series, is also interesting for the crossover of lore from our own world, where forests are frequently where spirits and old gods are thought to reside, and in particular the Kodama in Japan, which are still thought to reside in trees, which is an altogether more wholesome origin. I think that, like a lot of these choices, Phantump is also cute, while its evolution is far more intimidating. This shiny form is also impressive as it gives a fall perspective on the little ghoul, and makes me wish that they had, just this once, made some alternate shinies to get winter and summer in there too. Number 2, Shedinja. Shedinja is a gimmick Pokemon. It's a cute little thing where if you have a free spot in a Pokeball when you involve your Nincada, you get one. And I actually think that's pretty clever. I usually like the unique evolutions, and even though it can mean a bit of prep work, I think Shedinja may be my favorite. When I was little, my house had a big tree in the backyard where cicadas would come and molt on the tree, and I'd collect the exuvii, actual term for their husks, and put them in my room, and my mom would freak out. Sorry, Mom. This Pokemon might have a dark lore, but even if we could fully trust everything the Pokédex says, it's actually mentioned to only be a legend that it could steal your soul, and was probably just a fun bit of trolling by the designer since, as trainers, we have no choice but to look at the hole in the back. I also know that I said this would be purely based on aesthetics, but in this case, Shedinja's ability is part of why it's such a unique Pokemon. Having Wonder Guard makes every battle with it a little interesting if your opponent isn't prepared for it. Overall though, I just think the design is adorable, and it even has a little halo to remind you that it's the spirit of a shed skin. It's kind of gross, but it's also kind of cool. Number 1, Duskull and Dusknoir. There's something about Duskull that I find absolutely adorable. The little skull mask, the glowing eye, the way it holds its hands behind its back like it's inspecting which souls it would most like to spirit away to the other side. Again, we have some lore here that's perhaps a bit macabre, what with it taking bad children away to the spirit world, but those are just legends, and I honestly can't imagine this little buddy hurting anyone. Dusknoir, on the other hand, looks rather fierce and has the far more terrifying habit of listening to the spirit world about who should be brought there. It then swallows you with its belly and takes your soul to the other side. Of course, at the same time, it's also finding lost souls and taking them home too, which actually makes it a psychopomp, which is an interesting type of spirit or deity in many polytheistic and animistic cultures, rather than following the more well-known traditions of the Grim Reaper who actually causes death. That Duskull is thought to snatch away souls might actually be related to Dusknoir's role in gathering errant spirits and bringing them to a place of safety. Traditionally speaking, psychopomps aren't feared the way death is today. It was known, and is still known to the cultures that have them, that they're merely there to guide you to your final resting place, not there to rip you away from the world. The in-depth lore and amazing design of these two are why they made it to this list. And with that, we've come to an end for my list of favorite ghost-type Pokemon. I'm sure some of your favorites were here, some of them may not have been, and like I said, I'd be happy to see your choices down below. I'd also like to know if this style works out better for lists where I go off of the Pokemon themselves rather than their use in battle, or if you watch these for some suggestions on your next playthrough and would like me to comment on their in-game use. As always, I thank you for watching, and if you haven't, would really appreciate a subscription. If you haven't already, feel free to check out my Twitter where I post updates and Pokemon-related content, mostly. I will see you all next time, and please stay safe.